In this video, we're talking about finding the percent of a number. So, like if we're asked, for example, to find 40% of 300. So if we're going to do that, what we can think about how we're doing this conceptually is, remember, percent means out of 100. So I've got a 100 chart there. So there's 100 spaces. And I want to find 40% of 300. So the first thing I might do then is take my 300 and divide it evenly amongst the hundreds chart. So if I'm doing that, I know that there will be three in each, right? Because if I take 300 and divide by 100, that means I'm going to have 3 per square. And so I can keep doing that. And then I'm asked for 40% of that. So 40% would be 40 of these squares. So I have 40 squares with 3 circles each. So if I have 40 groups of 3, that means I have 40 times 3. So I would go the first thing I did was divide 300 by 100 to get 3 in each square, and then so I said if I've got 40%, I've got 40 squares, so I need to do 40 times 3 is 120. So 40% of 300 is 120. Okay, so that's what it looks like when when it sort of works out nicely. Like how the 300 divided nicely among these. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes we have other things. So for this example, I'm asked to find 25% of 50. So 50 is less than 100, so if I'm splitting it up evenly amongst my 100 squares, there's going to be less than 1. So if I take 50 and split it evenly amongst all the squares, I'm going to get 0.5 or 1/2 in each square. Okay, so sort of like that. I should actually fill the whole, like it would, 1/2 would go in each of the squares, but that's 100 times and I don't super feel like writing that whole thing. Then we're asked for 25% of that. So that means if we're looking for 25%, that would be 25 of the squares, right? So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go, that's 25 here. And then, so every 2 would make 1 whole. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.5 or 12.5. So we do that, then we have 25 times 25% of 50 is 12.5. Right, so if we're looking at what exactly it is we're doing, each time we split the number that we're taking the percent of evenly amongst 100, and then multiply by what percent we need. Okay, so the procedure we've used so far is to divide the number by 100, which is like putting it in each of the squares on the hundreds chart, and then multiply by whatever percent, which is like, because once we've got it divided amongst all those squares, the percent is how many squares we have to count. So the first example we did was 40% of 300. So we did 300 divided by 100 to put 3 in each square, and then multiply that by 40 because we had 40 squares that we were counting, and so we got 120. If this procedure makes sense to you, you're welcome to keep using that. However, there's sort of a shortcut that we use sometimes. So the thing with multiplying and dividing is you can actually swap the order that you're doing them in. Okay, so instead of going 300 divided by 100 times 40, I can go 300 times 40 divided by 100, and that still equals 120. Because then, if I look at this, 40 divided by 100, that's the same procedure we use to turn our percent into a decimal. So 40 divided by 100 would give me 0.4 or 0.40. And that still equals 120. So like I said, if you'll notice here, this is the percent in decimal form. And remember, of is typically a hint to multiply. So sort of a shortcut for finding percent of a number is you take the percent, change it into a decimal, and then multiply. Okay, now you can use whatever makes the most sense to you. So if it makes more sense to divide by 100 and then multiply it by the percent, like if that sort of is how it works for you, that's fine. You know, math is one of those things where we can use different methods and still get the right answer.